Hi, I'm Terry Ferris, and I'd like to welcome you to my new channel called Asia Impact with Terry Ferris. Um, I hope that we were able to take you on a journey throughout meeting individuals and organizations that are doing an incredible job across Asia. A little bit about myself. I've been in Asia now for 30 years. I've worked with quite a few nonprofits, universities, and at the same time in the wealth management field on talking about value succession. But today we're going to launch Asia Impact. I thought that I would start off with laying the foundation, who I am, how did I get to my core values and where I am from my parents. I guess in my foundation years, I would have to say that my parents were the serious drivers in my life. Um, they were very engaged. My mom was head of the hospital auxiliary doing fundraising for a nonprofit hospital in Hawaii. And my dad was running as the x-ray department and helping people during their emergencies and everything. But at the end of the day, he was very engaged with the church that we were involved in. Um, my mother taught us at a very young age that being involved in the community was something super important. We saw her running a gift shop, the candy stripers, and the people at the hospital, all the volunteers. And the one thing that really stood out for me is that we had a vending machine that they used to keep in front of the emergency room. And my sister and I would have to go and fill it up every week. And I remember going and putting these cans in and putting these chocolates in. And my mom would always say, every time that you're doing that, when people buy it, part of that's going back to help support the hospital, helping patients that couldn't afford or buying new equipment. And that was her real focus. My mother was really a person that would always say, you can do it. My parents were always very positive and engaging. The church that I belonged to, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, had a program called Community Crusade Against Drugs. And my parents said, hey, this is something that you and your sister need to be going out and doing. And so we would, during the summers, go door to door asking for donations for drug prevention materials that were put into over 95 schools in Hawaii for them on tobacco, alcohol, different things, drugs, so that they would have reading materials for the classes. And it was called Community Crusade Against Drugs. And it was an incredible learning experience because I used to go door to door during the summer asking, hey, my name is Terry, and we're trying to help place drug prevention material into schools, public schools all across the Hawaii. Would you like to give a donation? Wow, the experience that I had, it was scary. I was like 10, 12 years old and, going and doing this and meeting strangers at the door. And what I learned was keep it very simple. Just say what you're asking for and just smile, and people give you $1, $2, $3. And, my goal was always to be the best that I could be. And as I was being the best, my sister was my leader at that time, and we were in Kailua, would go door to door every day. And then by the time I turned 16, I got my driver's license, and they had 6 different districts, and they said, hey, Terry, would you like to have one of the districts? And so I said, sure. So I actually got the lowest producing or lowest donation area in the state of Hawaii. But I thought that, hey, I would sit down and I would work with the young people who are younger than me, like 14, 15, on what to say and to encourage them. Then I started to realize that, we were out there from 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night and people were not there. So I moved it down and said, hey, let's get together. Let's go to the beach. Let's go have fun. Let's do things together. But then at 4 o'clock, let's go out and, 80% of the people would be home. And I said, here's a script. Just say it. Don't say anything else. And just smile. And I will tell you that it transformed these young people. And I got to work with them summer after summer after summer. And what I would do is I would say, whoever raised the most money that day would get an ice cream cone from McDonald's. Or I'd say that, at the end of the week, whoever did the most. So I would get a McDonald's meal. At that time, that's all I really knew. And, what it did, it taught me how to be a leader. It taught me how to go out and talk to community. We then started going to talk to businesses. And I remember before they had the no solicitation signs in tall buildings, you go up to a tall building, and I remember going into one office called Dillingham and Dredgery. They were one of the biggest in Hawaii. I didn't know. I was just a young kid. And I said, I'm here to see the president of the organization, of the company. And the secretary kind of laughed at me and said, seriously, you want to meet the president? I said, sure. So I sit down in front of him, gave my presentation, didn't know that they were one of the biggest companies at that time in Hawaii. And he just chuckled. And I go, well, sir, why are you laughing at me? And he said, you're the first kid that's ever come and asked for a donation. And I remember them writing a donation, said, we'll work it with our office. And, tomorrow you can come get a check for $100. Now, $100 back in those days was massive. But I asked him, why are you giving back to community? And he said, you know what? It's really important because a lot of the people that work for us come from the community. It was through those 12 summers of going door to door, learning about how to talk to people, how to engage people. And what I found out that people really do care about each other, and that these nonprofit organizations play a very key, important role in the communities. I got to go to the programs, I got to listen to the teachers at the schools. And, I think the program probably ran for like 20 years, and it made a huge impact. It was those foundation years that made me decide that I would start my career in fundraising. And it was looking back at my parents and the foundation that they created for me that showed me engaging in the community and making a difference made much and brought happiness to you. But at the same time, it changed people's lives. I have to say that Asia Impact would not be where it is today or where it's going to go without the core foundation that my parents helped me out. So as we launch into Asia Impact, I want you to come along with me on this journey. I'll spend a few episodes going through, push the button, heart, like, follow, and follow along. And again, as we go through the next few series about who I am and how I got to where I am, and then starting to go out and to meet with people that are making an impact. So thank you very much. I'm Terry. Welcome to Asia Impact. I'm looking to working with you and others and making and continuing to make an impact in Asia.